The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Now broadcasting from the Right to Offend Media Studios in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, art, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report Live with Sam Whitfield.
But giving offense is good. In fact, it's essential.
Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to today's Monday edition of the Whitfield Report on a Tuesday. Yes, you heard that right. The Monday edition on a Tuesday. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sam Whitfield, recording here from Right to Offend Media Studios in South Florida. And thank you for joining me for today's episode. Real quick before we get started, my new book, Vengeance in Venezuela, is officially available today in paperback and ebook format. So go and check that out. Thank you to all of you who have supported The Shadows of Deception and The Man Named Miller series and all my other books. We greatly appreciate that. So again, you can pick that up now. It is available today. In fact, the reason why there was no show yesterday is I was doing like final prep for kind of launch day and the social media, cavalcade that comes along with that. So anyway, that's where I was. And in addition to that, I was also watching a movie that's been talked about a lot in the media over the past couple days, which is the subject of today's show. And given the fact that I write about vigilantes like Jason Miller and John Ryder on occasion, who can be vigilante-ish at times, depending on where you're reading in this series, I kind of found it appropriate to talk about this today. But I've gotten a lot of requests to talk about Citizen Vigilante, which is a brand new movie that came out like about a week or two ago. This movie was directed by Uwe Boll, who is, I guess, famous or infamous, depending on how you want to, phrase it, for making like really bad, almost like good, like low budget indie films that again are like so bad they're almost good. And Citizen Vigilante is the latest one of these films that he makes. Uwe Boll is also German, so this is very telling too, because this entire movie is basically like a German's interpretation, a European's interpretation, rather, as a whole, of like what an American vigilante would be like. But anyway, the premise of this movie is actually not that bad. This is actually what's gotten this movie like into some controversy too. Basically, the plot of this movie, and by the way, like, as far as spoilers go, I would say that this is like a spoiler warning, but there's basically like no plot to this movie whatsoever. So, like, saying spoiler warning is kind of redundant, and I'll explain why. So basically, the plot of this movie is there's this American guy who he's living in Croatia, which is where the movie is like set according to like IMDb and like Apple, TV, the streaming app. There's this American in Croatia. We don't really know why he's there. He's played by Army Hammer, and he's basically a vigilante who, you know, basically just goes around like killing the migrant rape gangs in Europe, the Muslim rape gangs who have been terrorizing European women and particularly young girls. And also, he kills a lot of the corrupt judges and law enforcement people who are lenient on the migrant rape gangs and just letting them, off the hook completely, which is a reality that's gone on in Europe as we've talked about for years. And that's basically the entire plot of this movie. There's really no substance to it other than like, Army Hammer basically just like causing a bloodbath for an hour and 30 minutes of not even like the migrant gang itself, but like I said, corrupt officials. And there's a scene where like the Interpol police like attempt to raid Armie Hammer's house and like arrest him. And he's in this bunker that's like fortified, and he has two AK-47s that he had, he has like mounted, and he basically shoots these SWAT cops that are like trying to arrest him. And is it is so like patently absurd that it's funny because it's basically just like Armie Hammer mowing these cops down. But the way the scene is like shot or animated or somehow, it's like basically a 14-year-old who like discovered like Final Cut Pro, like figured out how to use Final Cut Pro, and then also figured out like how to add like special like effects to make like body parts like explode and blood fly everywhere. And like rather than being like, really like, horrifying and like gruesome and over the top, it's actually funny because, like the gore effects are just so absurd. And then also, the music is like smooth jazz elevator music as like these, SWAT officers are just being like mowed down. It's hilarious almost. It's comedic. Like it shouldn't be funny, but the way it's shot kind of is like funny if you have like a dark sense of humor. It's basically kind of like a Hitman, like Blood Money, modded levels of absurdity. If some people could just get like ridiculous with those mods. That's what this entire movie is basically. It's just absurd. And by the way, like the reason why I'm describing these scenes like in depth is like basically this whole entire movie has been posted to the internet already. And a lot of these scenes, like I said, I watched the movie last night, but like a lot of these scenes, I realized like while I was watching this movie that I've basically already seen this movie in fragments, like posted to, you know, Twitter/X. And this movie is like people ask, is this movie AI? No, it's not AI either. Like you might think it's AI with how like ridiculous and over the top some of it is, but no. I guess this Uwe Bold guy just likes to do like absurdist, like edgy gore stuff that again is almost kind of funny. On the flip side, and this is also hilarious, so you have the like, like smooth jazz, like, music basically playing in the background is like, as like these corrupt Interpol cops, like who are trying to arrest the vigilante or getting like mowed down, right? On the flip side, you have Armie Hammer go to a brothel in the movie. And like at first, when the brothel scene appeared, I was like, okay, okay, did like one of the migrant, gangs like assault like a prostitute, or anything? Is that like why he's there or anything like that? Like that would have like if I were writing the movie like that's what I would have done or something, right? Like, he goes to the brothel to like investigate something, right? But no, basically this guy, the vigilante, just goes to a brothel and gets like a prostitute in like the red light district and basically just like, has sex with her and has yeah, that's basically what the scene is. And it's not like pornographic or like you know, overly done. They all you can see is like her tits and like I wouldn't even say it's like like soft core porn or anything like that because it's not even that. It's like less than that. And it's funny and what's funny about that is like there's the music for like the police, showdown or whatever. But then there's like intense action music while you can, see him like kind of thrusting into this prostitute like really bad. Like that's the epic like, fight scene or whatever. And but they have them reversed, which on the one hand I'm like, well, maybe that was an editing mistake. But then after watching the movie, I'm like, no, Uwe Boll just did that to fuck with people, probably. The vigilante character also has like weird, like quirks where like I kid you not, in the middle of the sex scene, like he stops having sex with this prostitute to like basically like inspect the mold in her apartment and like, you know, lecture about like you need to open the windows while you're showering so that there's no mold. It's like I said, it's almost funny, you know, in some ways. And like his investigation into like, where these Islamic rape gangs are like hiding out, like you don't see any of that. Like he just shows up to this one like Islamic teenager's house and like he just knows where this guy lives and convinces this kid to like call his other gang members, and then he kills them all and also kills the entire family, who have like made excuses for this, you know, kid's bad behavior. There's like a lot of criticism of like how like woke Europe has been and how the criminal justice system has been really soft on these migrant rape gangs. That's basically what the entire like dialogue is too. It's basically like all a monologue about like how bad woke is and about how like you know the mass migration of the third world is a terrible thing, which is like based, but also like it's like so over the top too, right? So basically, what am I getting at here? Is this movie good or bad? Well, that's the thing, right? So this movie basically has become kind of like famous online or infamous, however you want to put it, because like the woke, like politically correct cat lady left is basically like flipping, freaking out over this, being like, this is the worst movie ever. It's like promoting, genocide against Muslims or something. It's exploitive. It's horrendous. Uwe Boll is a Nazi. You know, basically like all the things that you can imagine that the left would scream about this movie, they basically have. And I think that's why it's gotten like so popular. Is a lot of like, these woke like Hollywood establishment types tried to cancel this, like, extremely low budget movie that's like really over the top and absurd, right? They tried to cancel it. And yet because of that, like, and because they brought so much attention to it, it's like the Streisand effect, where it's actually gotten more attention. And now because of that, like, it's the number 2 movie to purchase on Apple, on the Apple TV app, which is where I got it. And then I think it's like also trending on Amazon. Supposedly it's like beating out, Supergirl too, like, and I don't know if that's true, but it would be pretty funny if it is. It's kind of taken the wind out of the sails of Supergirl though too, like in the media, because people are talking about this like low budget indie film, right? So to me, like the controversy surrounding the movie is essentially what makes the movie, right? So what is my overall rating of this movie? Well, there are two schools of there are really only like two, modes for this movie as far as like reviews go so far. You have reviewers, like I said, who are, on the left and they hate it and they trash it and they think it's the worst thing ever. And it's just like, right wing, neo Nazi, fascist propaganda slop, and it's horrible. And then you have people out there, online who I think mainly are like trolling and edgelording, who are saying like it's the greatest movie ever, this is the greatest movie you'll ever see, it's the best film of the year, all that stuff, and just being like over the top, gushing at it, right? Mainly, like I said, to troll, a lot of the woke Karen cat ladies who are, crapping on this movie, right? And like I went into this movie with like super low expectations, knowing that it was going to be like purposely kind of bad. And like because of that, like I was just able to turn my brain off completely. And like, yeah, it was basically what I expected. Like it is terrible. But I woke up this morning and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, this movie is also like kind of good. Like it's so terrible, it shouldn't work, and yet it does. Like the character development is like almost non-existent. I don't even want to say the characters are like two-dimensional. They're more like one dimension, but yet like this movie somehow works. The dialogue is like I don't even want to say like it's like rough draft material, right? Because like my rough drafts of my books, even like the bad ones that I've written over the years, and Lord knows I have written some like bad first drafts before, publishing them. My bad rough drafts are like, Pulitzer award winning compared to like the screenplay, right? It is bad. This movie's screenplay is like so bad, it's almost like I said, kind of charming. It's so, what would I rate this movie like? Honestly, like I would give it like a C plus actually. It shouldn't work whatsoever, but because it's so self-aware and so over the top, it actually kind of does. And the fact that people that like the establishment is trying to cancel it, it works somehow. And I think it's funny that like it's the number 2 movie trending on Apple right now. Is it the film of the year? Of course not. But like it just goes to show how out of touch Hollywood is, that they're trying to, cancel this like no name movies so hard that like like I said, this Streisand effect happened, and now people are just kind of rallying around it, more or less to say fuck you to the to the woke people who hate it. So I would definitely recommend checking it out if people want to. Again, like, just turn your brain off. It's not super serious. Like I said, it is funny. So, like, I don't know, maybe someone might want to get, like, a little buzzed or a little stoned maybe for something like that. It's one of those movies, right? Now, interestingly enough, this kind of goes back to what I was saying at, like, the Michael Jackson movie that came out earlier this year, right? Because Hollywood did not like that movie either. The critics, I should say. They tried to, cancel that movie and say that, well, this movie whitewashed a lot of Michael Jackson's controversy. It was too feel good and too over the top, right? So, again, like, the reviewers, they tried to, cancel the Michael Jackson movie. And as a result, like, Michael has actually, like, done gangbusters. It's like number 3 as far as purchases go on digital formats right now, which is also, like, what makes this Citizen Vigilante movie hilarious, is that, like, it's, like, ahead of the Michael Jackson movie, which is still, like, I think going to be my movie of the year, by the way, the Michael Jackson biopic. Really well done. Just like a fun, feel-good, nostalgia movie. I did a review of that, like, a few weeks ago that I'll link as well for people to watch that. But yeah, Citizen Vigilante it's sure is something. Something. Not good, but not bad either. So, on the other hand, though, if you would want something that actually is good and actually is kind of thought-provoking and yet still kind of pulpy and fun, check out my new book, Vengeance in Venezuela, available now in paperback and ebook format. Audiobook edition coming later this summer. Again, thank you to everyone who pre-ordered and is picking up a copy today on publication day, and who has supported all my other books I've written over the years. Really appreciate all of you, and thank you for supporting my work as an indie author. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back maybe tomorrow, maybe not until after Independence Day. I don't know at this point. It all depends on kind of what Max and Morpheus, what their intentions are kind of for tomorrow and the holiday day weekend. So we may be back tomorrow to do the show, but we might not be, and that's okay. If we're back, I'll see you tomorrow. And if we don't speak to you until next week, have a happy Independence Day. Enjoy America's 250th birthday. This is a milestone, ladies and gentlemen, so have fun. And until next time, take care. God bless. God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy in that order. And pick up a copy of Vengeance in Venezuela. Available now.
The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Thank you for watching the Whitfield Report live on the Right to Offend Media Network. Make sure to check out Sam's books on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. You can follow Sam on X at SamW_NGC and the Right to Offend Media Network at RTO Media. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And until next time, God bless, God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy, in that order.